Welcome to The Explainer. Across West Africa, something really disturbing is happening. One military coup after another is toppling governments, and it's creating what some are now calling a belt of instability that's completely reshaping the future for millions of people. So, why is this all happening? Well, this isn't just some local problem. We're talking about something with huge global security implications. And to really get what's going on, you can't just look at one country at a time. You got to see the bigger picture. You might have seen the recent headlines about a failed coup attempt in Benin, right? But that's just the latest domino to fall. It's actually part of a much, much larger and pretty troubling story that's been building for years. And this pattern of instability, well, it's gotten so clear that analysts have actually given it a name. They're calling it the West African coup belt. Okay, so what in the world is a coup belt? Well, it's not just a clever name, it's a real geopolitical thing. Think of it as this connected chain of military takeovers that stretches all the way from the inland Sahel region down to the Gulf of Guinea. It's literally cutting a path right across West Africa, and it's tearing up democratic norms along the way. And get this, the speed at which this is happening is just, wow, it's alarming. Just look at the timeline. Since 2020, we've seen a successful or attempted coup pretty much every single year. Mali, then Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger, the momentum is undeniable, and honestly, it's really worrying. Okay, so that brings us to the big question. Why? Why is this all happening now? To figure that out, we have to look at the really complex forces at play here. It's like a giant geopolitical chessboard with a whole bunch of players making moves. And the thing is, there's no single easy answer. It's more like a perfect storm of four big issues all hitting at once. You've got ongoing security problems, a major shift in foreign influence, the main regional authority is getting weaker, and powerful countries are starting to just go it alone. You know, a key argument these military leaders use to justify what they're doing is security. They basically step up and say, hey, we're the only ones who can fix this mess. And they point to the very real threat of terrorism that's spreading south from the Sahel down towards the coast. This whole situation has created a huge power vacuum. You see, the traditional players, think former colonial powers like France and the regional group ECOWAS, they're losing credibility. They're just not seen as effective anymore. And guess who's stepping into that void? New actors like Russia and China. They're coming in, offering military help, economic deals, and usually with a lot fewer questions about democracy. And this really shows a huge shift in how the region deals with a crisis. The old way, the whole group, ECOWAS, would step in and lead the response. But now their power has really faded. So the new way? You've got individual countries acting on their own. Take Nigeria, for example, stepping in directly to stop the coup in Benin. We're moving away from collective security and straight into a world of bilateral power politics. And if you look at this table, you can see these common threads, right? Insurgencies, bad governance, but each situation also has its own unique trigger. The typical outcome, a military junta gets hit with sanctions. But that recent attempt in Benin, that was different, because a powerful neighbor stepped in, and that completely changed the outcome. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the high-level politics, but we absolutely cannot forget the human cost of all this. For the millions of ordinary people living inside this so-called coup belt, these takeovers have just devastating consequences. The impact really does spread out like ripples in a pond. It hits every single part of society. The economy gets thrown into chaos. Humanitarian aid is stretched to its breaking point. It absolutely crushes the hopes of young people, and the basic job of government just breaks down. And the economic damage, it's immediate and it is severe. I mean, think about it. Investor confidence just tanks. Foreign investment, it dries up completely. And the trade routes that these countries depend on, they get totally disrupted. For economies that need those ports and that trade to survive, this is nothing short of catastrophic. And this is where things get really tragic. You have this paradox. The main tool the rest of the world uses to push back, sanctions, well, it often ends up hurting the very people it's supposed to be helping. When you cut off aid and trade, you can push regular folks even deeper into poverty and hunger. So that really raises a huge question, doesn't it? Why would anyone, any citizen, support a military coup? Well, a lot of the time, the answer is just sheer frustration with elected governments that people see as hopelessly corrupt and useless. And this creates this awful, vicious cycle. You have young people who are just desperate for any kind of change. So at first, they might even welcome the soldiers. But when the military junta inevitably fails to fix the country's deep problems, that hope just curdles into even deeper despair. And that, right there, creates the perfect breeding ground for the next round of instability. All right, so let's pull all of this together. Let's connect the two big themes we've been talking about, the high-stakes geopolitics and that devastating human cost, to see the full and, frankly, pretty sobering picture. So at the end of the day, you see that these two sides of the crisis are totally linked. On one hand, you have this geopolitical chess game being played by big foreign powers. But on the other hand, that game has real, horrible consequences on the ground. It just fuels this vicious cycle of poverty and weak government that makes any kind of long-term stability feel almost impossible. And all of this leaves us with one final and really unsettling question. Is what we're seeing just a temporary crisis, a storm that's going to pass? Or is this pattern of military takeovers becoming the new grim normal for West Africa?